Welcome back to Breakfast with Bacon. We have Doug Bacon, whose last name inspired this series, here with Throwing Words. We have Julie Zalua, who is fondly known by us as Jay-Z. She's the wheels and the engine that makes all the things happen. And me, your host, Lynn Ingersoll. We're excited that you're with us this week. Every week, we attempt to share stories about what we're learning during this time in the hopes that it will prompt you and trigger some learning on your end to really explore how you can work and perform better. This session is about your strengths and how the strengths, there's this tension about getting your needs met, and when you don't get your needs met, how your strengths can flip over into overdrive. Doug is great at explaining this, and he's had some clients talk specifically about this time and how this is affecting them. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Doug, and share your thoughts.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, we talk about strengths and the great contributions that we make. I often will open a strengths coaching conversation with somebody to say, well, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how awesome you are. And while that is true, and it usually gets a laugh, what's also true is that to make those awesome contributions, there are certain needs that have to be met. And so having an awareness of, one, those contributions, but also what needs are being met. And what I've seen is that when those needs are not met, that's when strengths start to get into overdrive. And so we're not seeing them at their best. We're not seeing them in overdrive. And I had a conversation last week with a client that was clearly strengths were in overdrive. And so he's someone who has a lot of relational talent. And so really strong at making those connections with others, and he is really struggling with this remote work, with every kind of interaction being through a Zoom video or a phone call, because he's not able to make his best contribution. So what we talked about is, one, to have that awareness of that. We talk about awareness, and then when we're aware, we can bring some intentionality to what we know about ourselves. So to coach him on, one, being aware that that is a trigger for him, he is in overdrive, and to think about what can he do in order to get some of those relational needs met. And one idea is to schedule unscheduled time, or to take what is usually a structured time. There's a Zoom call scheduled. We have this agenda, these items to cover, and to put in like unstructured time into that structured. They usually set up for an hour, but so that you can have the one-off conversation. You can check in. You can say, "Hey, I was reviewing this document and had a quick question." Before we get started there, but allow that to be scheduled into that time, so that as this working remote continues for however long that will be, he can get some of those needs met and feel like he is contributing, versus just saying, "I'll talk to you in July when we're back in the office."
Great. So it sounds like that awareness is really key to creating new habits and being okay with the awareness that these are my needs. They may not be other people's needs, and making sure that everybody's okay with that, and just allowing that to be, then thinking about some other ways that that person can have their needs met. It's very interesting. What other tips could you share with folks today?
Yeah, so for those relational folks, be aware that that's likely an area where needs are not being met. And if you're somebody who is not burdened by those needs, and have found these last weeks to be some of the most productive ever, because we have a client with a coffee mug that says he had another meeting that could have been an email, who really are productive in those ways. To recognize that you're going to have colleagues who have those needs, and so you can kind of proactively create space for that.
I think that's great, because there's certainly people that don't have those relational needs and are delighted at all these Zoom meetings that they don't have to have the interaction. So it's really fascinating to see the differences in people. As a matter of fact, we have heard from a few people, they want to be part of Breakfast with Bacon. It is a cool and exciting name, isn't it? So for any of you that have an idea and want to reach out to us, we're posting these on LinkedIn, and Jay-Z is keeping up with these. We'd love to hear from you if you have something that we can help you with. That's it. That's a wrap for this week, and over and out. We'll see you next week.